accepted.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the tech capital of the world here in the brand new studio, Kevin. It's been 8 months since we've probably done this from here. So finally this thing's put together. We had lots of technical challenges.
With some teething problems, didn't we? Camera problems, computer problems.
Right.
Yeah, you got a whole new computer there. We had to get a camera fixed, so we had to send that off. It's weird now, isn't it? Because in this day and age, you can't actually like take a camera somewhere, especially like a high-end, like a Blackmagic camera, and just be like, "Hey, can you fix this?" Like, no, you got to send it back to the manufacturer to get it fixed. So
yeah, exactly.
We had to do that.
So, but yeah, so like we're here. I'm excited about it. It's kind of cool. It looks great, sounds great in here, and appreciate all the hard work to get me going here, Kevin.
Look, I see your helmets back there. I see that shiny new PC back there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to you guys, it probably looks similar, which we kind of want it to look a little bit similar.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of cool.
Oh, I see a super chat's going to pop up. Look at that.
Look at that.
Andy. Thanks, Thank you. Love your content. A lot of food for thought, especially when it contradicts other YouTube content creators. Cool.
Okay, we're controversial.
We're not trying to be controversial, just so you know this. We're not just out here being like, let's just disagree with somebody. Like, if we do, that just, I don't know. We tend not to like follow the trends as much and just like jump on bandwagons a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think that in reality of the YouTube creators out there's a lot of good ones out there, obviously. And I'm not speaking about the creator community as a whole, but when it comes to tech, there's a few that code for a living and there are a few that are just creators. And I think the ones that are just creators tend to follow headlines and the news media too much, whereas the people that are coding are like, see what you're saying, but I mean, like,
because that's how it works, right? I mean, if you want to be a YouTuber, you got to follow the algorithm, don't you? And it's like, the algorithm, you got to say things you may not necessarily like. You got to feed the algorithm. You may not always 100% be like what you want to say. Maybe I just have a feeling they're just out here saying it to get the clicks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's easier to be negative. Negative like always works on YouTube, and being I don't know, like
I don't know. It's easy. I always see these things where it's like to pull somebody's content, apart is real easy versus creating your own original thing is really difficult.
Right.
Just to critique somebody else's work, which you see them out here. There's a couple of channels that I've seen that are just like, dude, you're just a waste of space. Like, you're just critiquing other people's channels. Like, okay, whatever. Like, that's not
right.
But people
like it. We're here and we can say hey to some people, and then we'll talk about what we think is going to happen this year with development. I think ours is more of informed speculation versus like just true speculation of like what your common news is saying about what's going on, and realize that a lot of people in the news media, when they talk about certain things we're going to talk about, don't have informed opinions. They just say things because they saw something.
They saw it somewhere. Yeah,
they saw a demo and they're like, oh well, that's the end of that. So these people are kind of always duped by some of these things, and so whereas I think we have a more informed opinion based on like what I'm trying to do right now, like the things that I'm building, the things that I'm coding, and what the problems that the other coders here that work are running into, and then how are we using this kind of stuff. So where do we think it's going? So
exactly. Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, hey, we're going to give you our thoughts on it.
Here.
Yeah,
Haywood's here. Let's see, Ken is here.
Hey, Ken.
Patrick's here. We'll talk about this a little bit. It is a good time if you already have a job. It's also there's also if you don't, it's not bad either. Yep. Don't read too much to the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Let's see. Steve's here. Hey, Steve. Luke's here too. Hey, Luke. Welcome back. Bree is here as well. With a reminder to hit the like button. I always like somebody who reminds people to hit the like button.
Smash that like button.
Because I always forget to remind people.
Yeah.
So somebody's always in chat reminding people that's doing a better job at it than I am. Sorry.
Just give us a like. I don't know how many people are in chat right now, but like, hey, hit us up.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. And Andy's here, obviously, with the super chat. Thank you for that, Andy. We super appreciate it. You didn't really have to do that. Troy is here as well, and Captain Price is here.
I'm a creator. So Mikey, we're not calling you out saying that just because you're a creator, you're bad. We're creators too.
No, I'm a creator as well. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Yep. I'm guessing, let's see, Carlos is here. I'm guessing, Carlos, maybe, I'm hoping that English isn't your first language. You're not saying that we can't talk, so you need subtitles to understand us. I hope that's the case. But thanks for being here anyway. Subtitles will come on afterwards, don't forget too.
Yeah, in the live, but we can't produce them live. But they will come in the post. They get generated.
Congrats on the new studio. So, yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll just show it one more time. Just like, it's not in the wide.
Yeah.
There it is.
It looks the same to you guys, but it's very much not the same.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So yeah. So we've seen a ton of stuff. I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff recently. There's two main things that we're seeing. Market conditions being like a lot of layoffs and that kind of stuff, and looming recession, right. And then the other one that we hear like. I'm sick of hearing it, man. That AI is it, and that's it. It's going to take your job, and there's no point learning it because of AI.
Right. And then there's the nuanced discussion Troop up going to make. AI is going to take over. We understand it's not, but all the low end jobs will be replaced, and no room for new developers. And that argument I hear a lot. It's like, well, what happens when the old developers die? I mean, like, so new ones have to come and replace the older ones. Eventually, I'm going to quit coding, so like someone's got to take my spot. So like,
AI's taking it. That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
That's what they're saying. AI's taking it.
Yeah.
The only person that says that is somebody who hasn't actually used it.
That's what I think.
Or they're speculating on something that doesn't exist yet.
Right. So the other thing too, like I think what's going on here is a couple of things. Is when you're in the midst of like layoffs or challenging economic recessions or whatever you want to call it, depends on what news you read, if we're in a recession or not, it doesn't really matter. We may be in a downturn, but these downturns have happened always. So like, just listen to someone that's been around through all of them. So like since, 2002, when the first one happened, we had the tech bubble burst, when everybody who had a website was getting funded and then suddenly they weren't.
Right.
And all these companies went under, and then 2008, we had the mortgage crisis and all that kind of stuff happened. Stock market crashed, and we come in here in 2020, and big tech companies are laying people off. So that's the end of whatever. It's never coming back. We go through these cycles in our economy, and they always come back.
Right.
I don't know if it comes back. I just think we just go through cycles. There's ups and downs.
It just feels like it's coming back because you feel like it went down, right?
Yeah, and so therefore they think the state of today is the state of 10 years from now. Like, in other words, like they try to put where we're at today versus where we'll be in 10 years, and they think those things are constant or going to stay the same. And I think when we look at the economy, we think, well, okay, I'm not going to learn anything right now because Facebook laid off 10,000 people, And that's another nuanced discussion that people don't understand. So the reason these big tech companies are laying off is reasons beyond our control, which is, what is the stock price of Facebook, and how do I do that in the short term to make people happy? Lay off 10,000 people, and their stock has risen what? What do we look at? 90% in the last...
Over a year, right? What's that?
Yeah, over the year.
Yeah, it was over the year. So it was year on year. Yeah, it wasn't currently this year. It was like over the past year. Yeah, it was really gone up. It had really gone up.
Right. So they cut costs. They did this, and stock goes to the roof. The shareholders are happy. The board's happy, and then everyone moves on. And then they'll hire people back.
And it's funny because the memes about Facebook are kind of like, and when I said this the other day, it's like Facebook's dying, and I still do think it is, but it's still a massively profitable company with a massive amount of users. And they make memes about them like, betting on VR and it like this massive joke, and it's like, did you see their stock price raised 90-something% over a year?
And so like, when you look at Facebook, you got to look at them more nuanced. Like they have WhatsApp, which is pretty successful. Instagram's pretty successful. Maybe Facebook, the traditional Facebook or old Facebook, legacy Facebook, isn't as growing as quick as other ones, but they still have a very big business.
Oh yeah.
And they have enough money to pivot. And so Zuckerberg went out there and said, hey, we're going to pivot into VR. I don't know if he's wrong. I think maybe, the shareholder said you're spending too much on this. And so they're pulling that back. and saying, okay, we're still going to invest in this, but maybe 10 billion over, whatever he spent over the 3 years is a little high. And so maybe we can do that with less staff and do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Here you go. Luke knows what's up. This is exactly what happened. Big tech companies were ridiculously overstaffed. That's what happened. When you're in a boon, you just hire everybody because you've got like surplus money. It's like, why wouldn't you? Because you never know. Because you want to create something that hadn't been created before and do things you couldn't do before. So you can throw people at that. And then you realize at some point, like somebody realizes, well, maybe that wasn't the answer, and now we need to pull back. And as soon as one does, you notice everybody pull back.
Yeah, and then interest rates rise, and that means that money's no longer free. And like, there's a lot of these things that go in these mechanics of these things. Now, the other thing that people overestimate is tech is the FANG. In other words, like all the tech jobs exist at these 5 companies.
Yeah.
And while they do hire a lot of people worldwide, that's not where
it's a fraction of tech.
Everything is. It's a fraction of it. And so when we're talking about tech, when we talk about tech, the people that leave here at Foundry and get jobs are companies you never heard of that's got 5 developers or 3 developers, or so it's the small, medium, and even some really large businesses, but they're not in the FANG. We're the ultra big, Apple's cap is bigger than most countries around the world. I mean, so like those companies, while they're going to hire people, there's also a lot of other people that need things done. They need things built. They need a website built, and they're hiring people. So like
we've said this plenty of times before, every industry is the tech industry. It's just we just think about tech being FANG when we talk about tech, but what we really mean is it's the entire economy. It's everything.
It's the entire economy, and so the people that are driving these things, the discussion around this is big tech. I mean, so like Amazon obviously has the cloud, Microsoft driving it with OpenAI acquisitions. They're driving it with their cloud acquisitions. When Google produced earnings, something that was kind of interesting in the Google earning, that their cloud made money for the first time, which tells you like it's not that they're robbing from AWS and Azure. It tells you that this is expanding. It's getting bigger. The pie is getting bigger, and they're getting their slice of the pie, which is getting bigger, and they're making money for the first time. So in cloud, I mean, it's not like they don't make money. I'm saying they're just their cloud sector. So like, that means that development is getting larger, and it's going to get bigger. So the other thing that we've got some articles we want to point to, but we could talk about AI because that's the big elephant in the room. Is AI going to take over our job?
Is it? I haven't heard that in ages. We're talking about
AI.
So, what's that? What's AI?
And every time I mention this, I've been accused of insulting AI, which is I didn't know you can insult AI.
You can. It is like somebody. You're going to be a comment on this video tomorrow. That's going to be like, AI's my uncle. You guys suck. You're wrong.
I'm going to be in a defamation lawsuit against large language models. Like the LLM is going to file defamation because I don't think it can do everything. So I think, and this is coming from a position of like what I'm doing right now. So this isn't like a speculation of like how I think AI is going to be working.
Right.
We are building a thing, and we're not going to talk about it, but we're building a thing that's largely built in and around several AI technologies.
It has AI technology components, doesn't it?
Yes. And we're using it, we're building it. And on top of that, I'm using things like Copilot, ChatGPT, OpenAI APIs. I'm using the whole gamut of these stuff, trying to build something out. Here's what I've learned is I need to write a lot of code still, and I got multiple people writing code. So none of these tools have replaced those developers, nor could they. The thing that we're building can't be built with ChatGPT. And that's when I say that it won't replace developers. It's coming from me trying to do things, So do I want to replace the developers here at Foundry and Cortex? No, that's not what I want to do. It's not even on my radar. But let's say that I was the evil business owner that they talk about all the time, and I wanted to. Going down through this project, you
couldn't.
Can't do it.
It's not even an option.
It's not an option. It's not an option. And so I guarantee you, I'll get some comments in there like, well, you just wait till ChatGPT 5 comes out. You just wait till the next thing comes out. Then you'll change your tune. And what I'm going to say is maybe.
Right.
But I can't do the maybe today. That's for sure. And this is when we talk about, should I learn to code or not? If you think it's a decade from now and there's going to be no more software development, you should still learn to code because you could have a decade of earnings. I do believe this. Every shift that we've had created more opportunities, not less. So a lot of people think because low end, what we call low end, low code type jobs could go away, therefore the whole industry won't expand.
Right.
That's faulty. Yep. When every time we bring automation into an equation of something, that thing expands. It doesn't get smaller. In other words, like the amount of things being built isn't going to stay static. And therefore, AI over the next 10 years is going to eat away at this static dev jobs. Let's say there's 1 million dev jobs in the US right now, and AI is going to take up 30,000 of those, or 100,000 of those, or 500,000 of those. Therefore, there's going to be 50% less dev jobs in the marketplace. That's not what's happening. It is growing faster and bigger, and therefore the pie gets larger, like we're seeing with Google and all these other people that are expanding what they're doing, not less. And so every time there's any kind of automation, you go back and look at factories, you can go back and look at electricity, you can go back and look at the arrival of the car. Every major invention that changed the way we did things, it got bigger. And it's just this one time, everyone's saying, but this one's different.
yeah, it's not.
This one
I agree, it's not.
is going to replace all work and inhumanity. And like, when you start really looking at that, like the amount of inventions that would have to take place for that to happen is mind boggling. When you truly sit there and go, all right, I'm going to let AI do everything. And AI is going to be plugged into everything. People, what amazed me was when the plugins came out for OpenAI, they said, oh, it can hit Zapier now. It's over. Forget about it. It can do Zapier. And I'm like, okay, on the large scale, Zapier kind of sucks. I mean, like what it does, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like when you say, I want to reserve tickets at an airline, you're not doing that with Zapier. And it doesn't matter what Zapier does. In fact, if I had the CEO of Zapier online, he would say, yeah, that's not what we do. That's not our product focus. But somehow people saw it could do Zapier. Maybe that's the first time in their life they've seen Zapier do something.
Maybe.
And therefore they assume that it can do everything else. I'm like, well, it has limitations, man. I mean, like it's hooked into other APIs. So if the other API on the other end of Zapier doesn't do what you're saying, it can't do it. And so that means that we have to be a lot of inventions. And this is where my thoughts come from. It's like the amount of inventions is a lot. It's a lot of things that have to happen at once for it to take over. And therefore, that's when you see me say, it's probably, I think you're good. You're not going to have any problems because the inventions just to get to on par is a lot. And then the things that are invented after that just grows upon that. And it just is always will be behind. That's why when you look at content management systems, which is my classic thing where we built things to build websites, even today, those get up to a point and it's good.
Yeah.
But then when it goes beyond that, you have to do something else, and that's why I think WordPress still sticks around today because you can expand WordPress with plugins. It has a really robust plugin architecture and you can write code and build things that it doesn't do as its own product. And this is the secret I want everyone to understand. It's not about ChatGPT. It's about OpenAI as a platform and building on these AI platforms to build new products and services.
This is the thing. This is my big takeaway from this is people need to shift their thinking about AI. They need to shift their thinking from it's going to take my job and it's a threat to it is a massive, massive opportunity. It is a new platform. It is a new platform to develop on. And we're seeing that in the stuff that we're looking at, like, wow, the opportunities here and the things you could build now. So the project that we're working on, you couldn't build that without these technologies. It would be impossible. The black box that you pass the information in and get the information out of, the AI, is kind of the thing that makes this thing work. You couldn't program it otherwise. It's a massive opportunity.
You could program it. It's just that you couldn't do it.
Oh, it would be crazy. And it would be anywhere near as
thousands of people.
Yeah,
$100 million, whereas we've got 3 people working on it, and it's
exactly.
and like, bam, there you have something. So that is the opportunity that I want people to understand. The fact that you know how to code means you can leverage some of these platforms. Now, the thing I want people to be very careful of is AI being included in every single product that we build is also not a reality because AI can't solve every problem that's going to be built. And people think that it can, and it can't. I mean, we had this discussion with the dev team yesterday. We're like, and I literally remarked like, and people think AI is going to replace it because we're trying to use AI, and it's like, dang it,
yeah,
like,
it's just
I
it's
wish
almost
it would. It's just like it's close, but like, okay, so we got to go back to the drawing board and go, okay, given this limitation, this concern, like, how do we get around this? And that involves us writing a lot of code and then passing the correct thing into OpenAI to give us the result we want. In other words, we have to engineer it to make it do what it's good at, instead of like trying to push down too much stuff into it to make it do things it doesn't do well.
Right.
We have to go back and go, okay, we need to do this first, and do this step first, code some things up, and then we can send it something it can understand. The other thing that we're running into is just the overall context in a discussion is a lot smaller than people think. A lot of people think you can put all of human history into ChatGPT, and you can't. It has a token limit, and so that token limit is really small if you're using ChatGPT. Now, I will say this. I do think LLMs are going to be very smaller and very specific that are coming down the pipe. And I do think that's the invention that will change a lot of things the way we do it. Like, I think Microsoft would be well to make a C# LLM, a JavaScript LLM, instead of trying to shove every coding language into it. And then you operate on what's called multi-models. And like, you have multiple models that it can span across and look, but you can have this one really well-trained model, and that's going to like really drastically change. The other thing too that I would just comment on is like Copilot, while it's good, sometimes also gets in the way. And therefore it's never going to be a replacement. Like, sometimes I found myself typing in a model, and then you hit tab to accept the completion, and it gives me something that says, hey, maybe this is what you want, and you're in this realm, and you hit tab and you realize that's not what I wanted. Oh crap, delete. Right. You're like, sometimes you just want to turn it off and like, let me get through this, and then I'll let you talk in a minute. OpenAI, Copilot. I don't need my Copilot right now. I've got it. So like, I would like to see that feature added into VS Code where you could turn it off and on when you wanted to, because you know what you want to type. But
right, but maybe just, Copilot X, when we eventually get that.
Yes.
If we ever see that,
right?
Maybe that'll do some of those things, because that we don't have that yet. This isn't in its final form, or at least in its latest form. We're working on this.
And so while I'm fully aware that things are going to be created going forward, I don't think we're at the end of where this can be, but I think we're closer to where we're going to be than people think, or as like what it can do. And I think people are going to take these platforms and these things and then create things on top of it.
Yep.
That's going to blow our mind.
Yep. Massive opportunity.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. There will be some...
I'm hoping we blow people's minds with what we're building. Like, I'm hoping we do. Like, it's really cool. But like,
it's very cool.
I think that, but coding is going to be an essential skill if that's what you want to do. I still think this too, and I sent you an article. Remember, we talked about on the Not Null Podcast, where I bought a television, and then the television ads started coming out after I bought it.
Yeah.
And then so I read a review of the television I bought, which is kind of weird, but I sent it to you because you could tell the human wrote it. And while that was really powerful, a really strongly worded thing about how he would use the television and like how it's going to, something with the World Cup or whatever.
Yep.
But that wouldn't come out of AI. And so what I think you'll find out, even in marketing and text generation, blog posts, SEO marketing, and those kind of things, script writing in Hollywood, whatever it is, I think that it'll get it to a point maybe, and maybe it has a starting point, and maybe that's 80% there, maybe it's only 50% there. The human's going to take over to make that thing truly great. And I think that's the same thing in software, that people will say, I could use it, but only to a certain point. Then I've got to come in and make this thing exactly what I want, or make it what I would call make it great, where it's like it truly solves the problem that we're looking to do, instead of some kind of middle of the road type situation. Now, will it save us on boilerplate writing code? Yeah, but those stuff has been around for 15 years, and it hasn't
for ages.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you've ever used Visual Studio for more than 5 minutes, when we show you how to gen a project up,
it writes a bunch
connects
of
to the database.
Code.
It's been there for a long time, and that hasn't replaced developers. It just allowed you to get started quicker to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. And I think that's ultimately in the near future. And I think near future, decade, this is going to expand. It's going to be bigger than it is today. Even if AI comes in and takes some jobs that we don't have to do anymore, there'll be more jobs in 2030 than there are in 2023.
Agreed. And don't just take our word for it. We pulled up some websites just to show some stuff here. So this is Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is for this is their 2023 chart. I think from 2021 to 2023 they showed a web developers 30% increase and digital designers 23, interface designers 16, whereas the normal was 5%.
Of all other occupations.
All other occupations, yeah. So you can see it's above average growth, and then also this was from January this year. So this is after, this is post ChatGPT,
post AI, post AI revolution.
Exactly. Yeah. Post AI. So still the number one job of 2023. And still shows, even in here, they show that they account for 26% growth in here. So kind of interesting.
Now, I can tell you this, that we touted that fact and another thing about, hey, it's $370,000 programming jobs, new ones. And someone come back and said, that's pathetic. That's nothing. You don't understand. This is not, it's going to take millions. I'm like, that's not nothing. That's the growth for the number one thing in the US. Like, you can't sit there and say that 370,000 jobs, that's the biggest one. It's very significant. Like, I mean, it's not going to be a billion jobs because there's not a billion. That's really significant, and that is growth on top of what's already there. So what they're accounting for is like, what are the new ones? Like the new ones are adding onto the millions that I already have, and so those are turning over still, which means that someone leaves a position, that position gets hired out. That's not necessarily a new job. That's a rotation, what I would say, when they kind of calculate these statistics. They're looking at brand new positions that are added onto the other positions already there. And so, like, the churn inside of jobs is where the opportunity for developers comes from. One guy leaves for opportunity, the next person comes in and fills that because he'll say, I'll take that seat, I'll do that job. Then there's new jobs are created and people flow in to do those things. So I think that you're going to see a robust job market for developers. And what I want to caution people against is, don't believe the YouTube hyper AI bros that are going to say that this is going to take your job and run away with it, and there's no reason to learn to code. I don't know why they say these things.
But the clicks, man. We've seen some people even turn around on this.
Yeah, it's just so disingenuous. What I want people to understand is, it is never, ever in any point of history in this American experiment that we live in, has never been where you should not invest in you and your skills. The more skills you have, the more opportunity you have. And those two things are related. So don't sit back in your living room and go, well, AI took my job.
Now's the worst time to sit back.
Yeah. You need to skill up now and go after it really hard, because people are. We're going to show you something else from Pluralsight, which I think we can show that one too if you want to. Kevin, on page 6.
Yep.
That cloud is the cloud. They call it the cloud chasm. So Pluralsight has some terms. Let me just explain to you what that is. That is applications being built on AWS, Azure. They don't account the Google Cloud, but the Google Cloud's out there, and any other cloud provider out there. But what they're saying is, people that are coding today are skilling up, which tells you that people know there's opportunities out there. It's the people that are uneducated in the industry that tell you that it's over. And the people that are doing it are like, yeah, you darn right, I'm going to go get me an AWS cert, because like that's what the last recruiter asked me to have. But notice this most popular skill assessment was C#. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
And still, that's a back-end language. I think that when you're looking at building serverless functions or microservices or monolithic services on clouds, especially on Azure, that's being done in C# on the back end because it's performant, it's fast, it's great. Obviously, there's Go and Java and those kind of things also run in those cloud environments, Python, those things still there. So all of those skills are valuable, and people are skilling up. And that's what you need to think about doing. I need to skill up so I can participate in this economy. I promise you, the one thing I can promise without a doubt, unless history doesn't repeat itself, and it always does, is there's going to be no short of 4 or 5 companies that will be enormous because they built a product on top of an AI platform.
Yep. And it's something they couldn't build before. That's the thing. It's something they couldn't build before, either because of, not because they couldn't conceive it. I'm not talking about a whole new, like, we never even thought we needed that. Well, maybe we didn't think we needed it because we didn't think we needed Twitter, right? But maybe not that you can't conceive it. It's not a whole new conceived idea. It's the fact that it was unattainable because you'd have to spend $10 billion and have 1 million employees or something stupid, right? Well, now you don't need that. Now you can build with the same size company of something like Facebook. Right. Now you can build something more than Facebook.
Right. And so in every single screen shift we've had, this has happened. And so when you look at the mobile screen shift, which is the most recent one, 07, it wasn't the fact that we couldn't build a mobile phone. Only Apple at the time really built the smartphone the way it was. There's some other people out there. I know BlackBerry's saying hello, but like,
are they?
You know, yeah. Well, they did at that time. Like, hey, wait a second, we're around. You know, like, but like, I know that, but it wasn't the phone that was the thing that people were trying to duplicate. It was the app store and the fact that they could build an app on top of that phone.
Yeah.
And make $1 billion. And every single social media company that we have today came out of that invention. Yeah. Facebook, all of them.
Well, because the mobility is the thing.
Yeah, mobility, you could put it on a phone and people could take a picture of their Chick-fil-A meal and people wanted to see it. I mean, like, and so like, and you didn't know that was a thing until it was a thing. And that's what I'm saying. Someone will build something we didn't know we needed, but we have to have. And they're going to build it on an AI platform because it wasn't accessible to them before. So the fraction of the people required to build the phone built Twitter. The fraction of the people that didn't have to build the phone or learn about electronics or anything like that built Snapchat and all these other things that we use today. I mean, so I don't know how many people use Snapchat, but it's still publicly traded. So Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, all of them.
The phone enabled that, and it comes back to what we're doing with the project that we're building. It's just saying the same thing again. We wouldn't be able to build that a year ago, which is insane.
A year ago, it would have been like
the
idea was there, and we're like, yeah, that would be kind of cool.
But even the idea, you would have been like, how on earth would we do that?
How would you do that?
You wouldn't know how to. Yeah, you wouldn't know how to do it. It would be very, very. It would just be weird. You just wouldn't be able to.
You would
think.
dismiss
You'd be like, well, that's something that needs to be invented. Yeah.
I can't do that. We would have to spend the invention part just doing that, and that's not even to the product yet. So it's kind of like trying to build the car before the wheel. You know, like if we got to invent this other thing first before we could get this thing rolling down the road.
So now this black box of AI, and this black box of AI now lets you do these things, and you wedge that into your product, and you're like, well, it now does this thing, so I can take this input and I can get this output from this black box. That's like that black box part is crazy cool. It's crazy cool what you can do with it.
Yeah, the other thing that I find fascinating is people think that the chatbot, when you see these media people, that the chatbot is the invention. And it's really not. Like, it's just like we're showing you what a large language model can do, and therefore everyone thinks, well, ChatGPT, that's the app. That's the one app, the one Oracle. That's all we need. And it's like, no, there's more things to do here, than a chatbot. And that's why when Snapchat put the chatbot right in the interface, I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. You can just go to ChatGPT for that. That's not a good use of it. While I think people will slap it together and make other bots, we've had bots for a while. We've had you click on a website, hey, can I chat with you? And those are bots most of the time. So is it a better bot? Yeah, it's better. But do you need a bot that knows about everything? And do you want everything onto your website? And the answer is no. And that's why I think smaller language models are coming. Other tooling's coming down the pipe that I make a prediction here that I think is going to happen. But I do think we'll see LLMs as a database, where you'll just shove in a bunch of data, it'll make it into an LLM, and then you can query on it.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to see that.
Yeah, so SQL as a large language model, where you have SQL as a relational database. We have, non-structured databases now. I think there'll be a third class. And maybe Oracle makes that because they have the best name for it. Maybe they're the one that makes an LLM database where you just send us your data. We'll train it automatically, and it trains in the background, and then you can type on it and makes it easier to do. But the reason they would do that is because someone wants to build an app on top of that.
Right. That's not the
to
product.
Do something.
It's not the. I should say it's not
the LLM's not the product. Right. It's the database.
Yeah.
It's the underground penny of this. It's like saying that, because we can transfer documents between 2 points with, HTTP is going to change everything. Sort of. It makes us websites, but that's not the thing. That's the utility of it. It's what you can build on top of that is what's changing. And the only way you can do that is code. There is no automatic app builder that's ever going to be built out. It's just not going to happen. Maybe one day.
Maybe in a decade we'll have a builder that can build. Here's the other point. Maybe in a decade, let's say, we have a builder or some kind of AI that you can say, build me a website, and it'll build you the websites of today. But the websites and the apps of 10 years' time will be very different than the websites of today. It's the same thing with the website builders, a similar kind of thing. They can kind of build apps that are kind of a little bit behind, whereas the cutting edge stuff still takes a developer to build. It's the same kind of thing. And that brings up a point that something like the AI tools will just enable us to build things we just couldn't build before. That's the point.
Yeah. And I think code completion can get better. I mean, it definitely can get better. I mean, because it's not exactly great right now. It's pretty good, but like for a lot of times it gets in the way. I think that'll get better and better and better, but still someone's going to be typing that in. And you can maybe type faster, maybe certain things get black box for you. But every time we build a black box of code, we end up ripping those things apart because it doesn't do everything that we want. Right. And so you end up coding it custom anyway because you need it to do something the black box doesn't do. And you end up fighting the box versus like just making it. That's why I think, and if you read the Google report, the linked internal email about we have no advantage, like this thing's out of the box.
Yeah. Someone
took an LLM and did something ChatGPT did for $600. And so like we're saying that the invention is out of the box and like it's easily duplicated. And so like I think it's the thing that you can be on top of it is really where the invention is going to be. It's not the AI itself. And then they're going to get smaller, and what we're going to call multi-model is the other thing. So it's not going to be the Oracle that controls the matrix. I mean, it's just not, that's not what it does. I mean, like it's going to be like, I can tell you about C# really well, but nothing else. And that's really what we want, because we want to be able to ask specific questions to specific LLM that gives us specific answers instead of it trying to form its opinion on the whole of human history, which is what the current LLM does at OpenAI. They have everything in it.
Right. I'll also think there's a couple of reasons we won't see that too. One is because the AI part of the applications will be buried. It's not, like I said, it's not the product.
You won't
it's
see
just
it that way.
It's a feature of the product in its output, not in the fact that it was AI that did it. It's whatever it generated is the thing that is the product. And just so happens it got there through AI. So AI isn't the thing. AI is just a means to an end. It's a means to create something. The product will
even
be
in marketing, we'll take
is,
the marketing where everyone thinks that's the one that's going to end. It's like, we've had writing prompts for like ever. Like AI just kind of made it a little bit better, maybe a little bit faster, but like you've had writing prompts forever where you say, okay, this template works for me. I'm going to merge my names in it and I'm going to send the emails out. And we've been doing that for quite a while. We've just now automated maybe the template part, maybe. So you're a fraction better, but like you still have to like know your audience of the marketing email you're sending out, and AI will probably get you 80% there, but then that thing needs to be wordsmith. It always does. And everyone say, well, it's going to get better. Okay. So does that mean you shouldn't learn marketing to this point? No, that means that you can use this tool to do more of those things or faster things. Or maybe idea generation, which makes you better. And like, oh, I see that. Let me change that. And boom, you push the marketing email out. There's a lot of integrations for AI behind the scenes to be able to reproduce, like sending out mass emails and doing all those kind of things. So that part of it's still kind of manual. ChatGPT doesn't do that out of the box. Yeah. I mean, like, but like the other thing is because it has plugins now, people think, well, that's over. I mean, we've been integrating systems for 50 years. I mean, like, it's just a new, the AI has nothing even new. And that's why when I saw all the people going crazy over Zapier integration, I'm like, what? There last week. I mean, like, you could do that before. I mean, like, so, I mean, now we send everything to a, like our forms go to from our website through Zapier, go to a Google Doc.
Or Google Doc, yeah.
We actually just rewrote that piece because it didn't work well, and like we wrote our own custom portal for inbound students. And yes, we still have Zapier, but we ended up writing our own webhook. So Zapier really didn't do anything other than that. The only reason we're using Zapier is because Squarespace, our main website, that's the only way you get a form sent out of it.
Right.
So that's where they decide to integrate. So we're doing that. And then we wrote custom code here to pull it in like we wanted, so that we didn't really use we used the webhook instead of just a general, plugin that does it. And that's why when I saw the ChatGPT plugin and everyone was going crazy, it has Zapier now. I'm like, yeah, that's been around for 15 years.
For me, the more interesting plugin there is like the web plugin, which
gives it context to the page.
Yeah, which Edge now has with Microsoft's Bing AI, and it's really good. That is cool. I like that. Yeah. That idea is super cool. I do like that. It's very cool. But here's the other reason that that I think this is kind of an issue too. So somebody basically Aries or Wolfsy is basically saying that it's AI has got place, but content's trained on resources, and actual developers come with original ideas. This like the way that I think about this is, yeah, that's true, and also the amount of data that it's pulling in, I've said this from the very, very beginning of this thing when we figured out, like, oh, this is how this works. It just sucks up the whole of the internet. Like, that's going to be a problem. Somebody at some point is going to say, you know what? We can't do that. We might literally be at peak LLM right now because there's no regulation around it. Regulation's going to have an issue with it.
Sam Altman's saying that, the guy that runs OpenAI. He says large language models are done. This is the biggest one we're going to get, because I think they've hit a limit to what they can consume in one model. And there's like, we need smaller models and operate on multiple models. And I think that's the next thing where OpenAI is going to go. And that's not me predicting that. That's what he told us. He told us there is no more ChatGPT 5. 4 is
they said they're not training it. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 is kind of it. And that's when I saw this the first time, I thought, oh, this is the best thing they have. And a lot of people said, oh, they've got 7 out there, Bobby. You just don't understand. I'm like, well, no, Microsoft spent $10 billion. This is what they got. They're showing what they have. I mean, like, there's no secret UFO technology back there that they're not showing to do nothing.
I don't know.
Maybe. So,
they wouldn't tell us if there was. But I agree, yeah. But I agree.
For what purpose? To do what? To run world events with the large language model. Okay.
These things have to be, the data has to be opt-in. That's going to be the thing. The data has to be opt-in. It can't just be sucked up from everything. So again, we might be at peak large language model right now because of the fact that when people have the option to opt out or have to opt in, that's going to happen a lot. And the same thing's happening with the like Midjourney and the generative AI image things. It's just going to become an issue. It was like I was telling you yesterday at the weekend. I put on May the 5th, I put out an image on Twitter that was an image of Mandalorian, right? And it was stylized in an artist's style. I used as my prompt, right? So I put this out on Twitter, and somebody asked me for the prompt, and I put the prompt in there. And the artist basically came back and said, like, man, what are you doing? Like, you're killing me.
Killing me, bro.
It's like, you're killing me, Rose said. And I was like, wow, this is cool. So I started a conversation with him. And his point as an artist was basically like, yeah, it's like identity theft. Like, you're stealing my work. He didn't want this AI to be trained on his work, but he literally has no choice. It's not, he has no opt-in, no opt-out, nothing. It's just, it grabbed up his work, it took his style, and it generated an image for me on his style.
And so I think it's a
tricky
in that regard, I think the lawsuits are coming. Like, in other words, like, they're going to sue these AI companies and saying you cannot have that data in that model.
We have that Getty image one, and that hasn't played out yet, so we'll see how that goes.
It will, and if you can't remove it, then you can't use it, and that's ours. And I think that's ultimately where this goes. And so, like, some people are going to opt in, but what you're seeing is the people that have the data sets are now building their own models. That's what Adobe Firefly came out of it.
Yes.
Not as good as Midjourney yet, but since we've seen Midjourney, we know that they'll get there.
Well, the data is the thing, right? The data is the valuable thing here. Without the data,
AI doesn't have the data.
Exactly. Without the data, that doesn't mean anything. The large language
model LLM isn't the invention. I mean, it sort of is, but it's not the biggest thing out there. And so now other companies will say, well, we'll just make our own LLM and we're going to tell them they can't use it. And that's going to be the differentiator between these LLMs is what was it trained on, and do they have access to do they have the rights to use that data? Yep. And of course, Shutterstock, who has billions of images, will opt in with their training data.
Well, they have their own. They have the Shutterstock AI already, which sucks, by the way. It's based on an old version of DALL-E, but it's not very good. Yeah. But it could get better.
It could get better. Well, because we've seen Midjourney.
We've seen Midjourney. We know where it can get.
Technology exists for it to be better.
And I'm loving Leonardo right now, by the way. If anybody's not messed with Leonardo, Leonardo.ai, if you can get in, I got a beta access invite to it. Yeah. It's really good. It's really good.
What the last commenter said is you need to constantly add new stuff to it because if you don't,
otherwise you set.
Especially in the world of art, trends change, man. I mean, like, I'm sure when Leonardo, like, we now like his stuff, but like when it came out, I'm sure he was all the rage and people were trying to copy him. And like, man, that Leonardo cat's got it going on. Let me. How did you? Wow, that's cool. Let me paint like that. That's neat. You selling those things all over the place.
Yeah. I don't know the history.
Sell some.
I don't know the history of
I don't know. I'm sure it had some fans though.
Maybe I don't know. Was he one of those artists? Anybody know? Was he one of those artists that like didn't make any money and only sold his art after he died? Probably. I'm not a historian on Leonardo da Vinci. Sorry, but there were some like that.
Well, he had some commissions. The Sistine Chapel, he didn't do that for free. I mean, like, he had to go there and make the hand of God thing or whatever it was, the fingers, So
yep.
I think he was pretty
okay. You want to do some comments here then for people? I queued some up, so we'll just go through some random comments here. This might not be in any order. But Mark says, still C# dev since 2012, couldn't work as back-end engineer, love the language.
2012. So, do the math there.
Been doing it for over a decade.
11 years, baby. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
Show them what's up.
Newman wants to know if we're doing portfolio reviews anytime soon. We did one a couple weeks back.
Weeks ago.
So you can go and watch that one on replay if you want. We'll probably do another one for sure. Well, we'll definitely do another one for sure.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on. Don't follow us on, or do follow us on Twitter, because that's where we normally put it up.
Twitter.
When we're doing one, and then we'll have you guys fill out the form there. Let's see. Parker says, if you think AI will take over in the near future, maybe development isn't for you.
So let me comment on this one. I do think people can be discouraged to learn something because people are telling them not to do it. And it's harsh to say, well, maybe you aren't strong-willed enough to do it. You can take the whole tech bro approach. I'm not saying you're doing that, but a lot of people say you're just weak and you can't do it. But I do think there's a real thing to groupthink where people think that this isn't going to be there, therefore it's not doing it. It's our job to tell you the truth that it is going to be there, and therefore don't miss the boat, because these same creators will hop onto something different and 6 to 8 months from now or 10 months from now and tell you that's the new thing, or this is the thing that's going to end the world. People have been saying that the world's going to be end since, I don't know, since the Romans, that the world's going to end, since the rise of Christianity, they've been saying the world's going to end. So like, it's always going to be some doomsayers out there, but you got to act on what you know today. That's the best thing you can do, and skill yourself up based on what's available today. Now, 10 years from now, if I have to come back and say, well, AI took over and there's robots standing behind me making me say it, I mean, like, yeah, because they got the guns out, like, hey, you're gonna count that.
We joke, but
the definition, I get the LLM defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, could be bad. Hey, look, Jacob was here. I don't know if he's still here.
Jacob.
But if anything, his bet is that AI will increase the demand for software developers.
That's it.
Yeah. Let's see. What's Andy saying? Procrastinating learning new skills is not wise, since there's so much to learn in tech and more all the time.
So Andy knows, like, when you start really thinking about, like, and this is what I've been saying for like months now, it's like, you think about, of all the things AI would have to replace a developer, it's a lot. I mean, like, it's a lot. Can we make ChatGPT do push, pulls, merge, and automatic code completion? Yeah. Can we? Does it today? No. So we gotta do some Git integration. We got to do some stuff like that. Can we?
Yeah, there's some boring things we can fix.
Can we make wireframes AI? Maybe, okay, but we got to put that into the workflow. And there's some There's just a lot of inventions that have to be happen. And everyone say, well, they'll come. Okay. Maybe they won't. Maybe people will decide, wireframe integration just ain't worth it. It's just more problems. It's too, let's get on to doing something else. So thanks, Bree. Thanks, man. Taco time.
Bree, thank you so much. You had a question?
.NET 8, we'll see. It's always getting better. We're definitely going to see things like WebAssembly, and I'm telling you guys, Microsoft is hot on what's happening with Blazor. I've seen some Blazor projects come our way that people want to use Blazor. And I do think that WebAssembly is a humongous thing. If you don't believe me, I think we even have an article on that, Kevin. I mean, like we did something like that.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, that was something. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Right here, look, we didn't even get to that yet, but we'll get to it at all.
So how will developers work in 2023? Their big thing.
This one was
WebAssembly
going mainstream.
It was mainstream. And a lot of people think that I'm crazy, and they think, well, it's not the death of JavaScript. You just don't like JavaScript. I like JavaScript. I think it's fine. I just think that when you have all of the browser vendors telling you this is going to happen, they will move the needle because they control the browser. And it's just like plugins were removed overnight. It was seemingly overnight, and suddenly Flash was dead. This is that kind of thing because there are some problems with the way JavaScript is executed in the browser that could be fixed by more type-safe languages. And not to mention the things that you could build would be drastically different once that's the mainstream way of doing it. And I just think it's an invention coming down. Is it next year? I don't know. I think it's going to slowly progress over time, and we'll look back and go, hey, everything's built in WebAssembly now. Who would have known that? You come back and watch the video like Bobby did. Yeah. It's not because I think I'm smarter than everyone else. It's just I'm looking at the behavior of these browser vendors and the behavior that they did when plugins came around. When they started saying, plugins kind of suck. ActiveX kind of lame. We don't like Flash. And, Apple comes out and says, we hate Flash. It'll never run on our device. And it didn't.
And they killed it.
And they killed it. And so now they're going to come out and they're going to say, I can tell you this, the same thing happened with Microsoft and Silverlight. Silverlight, I can tell you the day it happened that the guy came out there and said, we really like HTML5 and we're not going to implement Silverlight anymore. The internet exploded. I remember watching it like, well, crap, that's different. And that was a plugin tech. And that was because the browsers were moving away from plugins. Silverlight was a plugin tech, a la like Flash. They announced HTML5 and they did it in a harsh way. It's just now because of backlash like that, and it causes panic and people gnashing in the streets, gnashing of teeth and running in the streets. They don't want to do that. So they're just going to slowly push this over that they know where it's going. They're telling you, they got some articles coming out here and there, some tech previews, and suddenly a lot of people start adopting it. And that's where it's going to go eventually. And Blazor just seems to have the biggest head start right now. Sure.
Francis says, opinions on learning how to program in your 40s.
Start.
Yeah. Don't let age be a thing.
Don't let age be a thing. Age is only thing that matters to age is you and your age and how you feel about you. You think you can learn it? Do you think you have aptitude? Start. There's too many jobs out there that for you.
We've seen plenty of people over 40 go through our boot camp and get hired. So
Francis, 40 is nothing. I wish I was 40. I wish I could go back 15 years. I mean, that would be great. I mean,
being only 30 something, I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know,
I wish. Also, go follow our friend Paul too. Running after 30. He literally has a channel about.
He's way after 30 now, but
I keep joking with him all the time. He's not going to listen to this, is he? He's not going to hear this. But you can go to his channel. Look, he's not going to even know we're promoting him here. But go to his channel, Coding After 30. He literally talks about being older. He has some videos that he made early on about being older, and I still say he should change his name to Coding After 40. He just doesn't listen to me. He doesn't like the rebrand idea.
Yeah. Technically after 30.
I think that's his point. He's like, well, it's after 30, isn't it? So, he's going to be like 50 something. It's still going to be Coding After 30. Let's see. Over a time with the economy where one has to be flexible about which text that they use and be prepared to work independently and freelance on short-term contracts and projects.
I would say that that's always been a thing in coding since I can remember. Short-term and contract work's always been a thing. And then there's always going to be companies that will hire you full-time. That's the beauty of this. Like, if you want to be that independent freelancer, coding gives you the ability to do that. If you want to work on 8-month contract gigs and end your work in September and come back in January and take another 8-month contract, you can. Or if you want the stability of a W-2 with a 401k and a match and all that kind of stuff, you can do that too. All of those opportunities are there for you, especially if you're really good at your job. Now, if you're just starting out, maybe the only thing you get is a full-time W-2 job, which isn't bad. I mean, it's a really great thing. I mean, like, but like, I think freelance is great. I think short-term is great. It gives you more freedom. I did contracting for a while where it was more freedom. Now, I worked back to back. I never did the whole sabbatical type 4-8 weeks off type thing. I always kept going contract to contract to contract. But like, I've done both, and I think it's good if you want to do it. I know some guys that have really carved out a really great life where they just work contracts, and they know because of their skills they'll always get another contract. So they just work their vacation and time off in and around contracts. So, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you want that, water cooler talk and talk about who won football game on Sunday, go to a company. So, either way works, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be that way. I don't think we're going to have to make that choice.
So, I don't know if that's how I'm pronouncing. Well, that's how I'm pronouncing it. If that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if I butchered it. But since we're talking about LLM and AI models, what do you think about the future of AI generating UI layout pages from a single prompt or from project specification details?
Not from a single prompt. I mean, like,
yeah, there's no way from a single prompt. I mean, the iteration we're in right now, it's impossible to do that. You can, I mean, it'll generate something. It'll just be trash. You can iterate over it. You do a whole bunch of extra things. It just takes a minute to get there. Will it ever get there? Don't know. Probably not, is my guess. Not without being specifically trained. The current versions don't, but like to your point, if we had a specifically trained small language model that could maybe do it. It's just, but then you just like, it's a template. So what's the difference?
It's a template generator. So like people don't understand that's what it's doing. So like, could you iterate over it? The other problem that it has right now is that it can't really display the result of that. So it's coming out as text, which is what HTML pages are. And then you've got to turn that into something. So currently right now, if you're at a marketing company or you're at a consulting company and you need to generate a wireframe, you have to put that in a wireframing thing right now. Because
I think that's one of the next things we're actually going to see. I think we're going to see
a thing here
on one of these AI like coding tools. We're going to be able to see. You're going to say render the code, and it's going to be able to render it in line, and it's going to show you kind of a thing because it's just going to use because it's just HTML and CSS. So it technically could. You could put a.
It's got to have a web.
You could put exactly. You could put a web. You could put some way to render it in that thing, and it could work. But that's an invention that doesn't exist yet. So it's like
it doesn't work yet. So like we have live server in VS Code. I mean, so like can you render something like live server?
Yeah, there'll be something similar, I think.
In a web page, yeah, you can. My question is, and there's a reason it's not in ChatGPT, is because like of all of the use cases for that, that's a very small amount of people that would actually need you to render a web page. Yeah. And so what I think the invention is they'll come down and they'll make a very specific LLM for coding. Maybe that's Copilot X. And even then, I don't think it's going to be from a chat bot. Like, so the marketing guy isn't going to generate a web page from a chat prompt. It's always going to be the coder using something and say, oh, I've got my specs in here. Let me just put in there what he told me from the meeting. What does it come out? And then if that's not well formed, then you got to go edit it. So like it needs to be an editable form, not just a JPEG that's generated. So there's some invention coming in. Does it mean it can happen? Yeah, but here's the thing you're going to ask yourself. When you get it, will you like to use it that way? And that's what I've often said, is that the way we want to do this? Or will you just say, I see what you did there, but I've got to edit it a lot anyway. Let me just control the code from the beginning. And people think that the marketing head of the marketing agency, and I've seen this from lots of people. I run a 20-person marketing company. We have 10,000 clients. I just fired all my employees yesterday. I'm doing it all by myself. And I just call hogwash. That's not happening. Like, I don't think you have a company if that's what you did, because your customers just quit. Because like suddenly, what happened to James? I liked working with James. Well, I fired him. Why? Because I'm going to do this all from a prompt now. Really? That's what you're going to do? Okay. I'll call you back. So, but Eric, I think could happen. Could Figma come out and say, we're going to put some AI tools in here and help you? Maybe. So like you could see companies like that doing it. You're still going to buy their tool, do it. And I think what Kevin said earlier, it's going to be under the tooling above this that does things for you. And so I think that's more like where I think the invention is going to come out, where someone will probably make maybe an AI, a wireframe tool that uses AI to generate the wireframes a lot better. And it's not going to be from a single prompt. I mean, just like, or a picture of a cocktail napkin. I mean, like, which is what people were saying. Look,
it's still trash in, trash out. It still has that issue.
It's usually more nuanced than that, and a lot more discussion goes into those things. Where the wireframe, the creation of the wireframe, isn't the bottleneck. It's the 40 people sitting in the boardroom writing things on a whiteboard. Like, okay, how are we going to do this?
And to your point that you made a million times. To your point, you've talked about a million times. It's the one where the guy that wants the flag,
on the button. They're like, why are we putting the flag on the button? And so then your AI from the prompt is going like this, taking the flag in and out. No, we're not doing that. Yes, we are. No, we're not. And the flag keeps coming off. So I don't know if that's the bottleneck. I don't think it's that hard to generate wireframes anyway. So I come from a different, where I don't think that is the skill that's has to be replaced because it's so complicated that no one can do it. I mean, I just don't know if there's something that people really want that, other than it's kind of cool. It's kind of fancy, but I don't know. That's kind of what I think. It could happen though. I think developers will be using it. The designers will still be using it. The same people will still be using the tool. I don't think the head of marketing is going to be using the tool, no matter how it's made.
Right.
They won't be able to get the result they want. And then it'll still have to be edited once it gets put in production.
There you go. Okay, It's about taco time. Thank you for the
already. Any last questions for the road?
It is. Thank you for the super chat today, Bree and Andy. We super appreciate it. I should have just left this up there and put your name up there. But you want to do one last question before we?
Yeah.
Well, let's do.
This went by fast. We haven't done one of these in a while.
Let's do this last one. What do you think about no-code tools, Wix, Bubble, Honeycode, and about their prospects of putting web developers out of a job?
So I don't know about Bubble or Honeycode, so I don't know those.
Sorry, I messed with Bubble a little bit.
Okay, I have messed with Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, those kind of things. Have they put web developers out of a job? Maybe. All right.
I would say
Kevin
not.
knows also it has grown exponentially since these things came out. And then once it gets complicated, it always gets complicated. Like if you have, let's say that I run a plumbing business and I go out and want plumbing business and I'm on Angie's list. I'm getting come in and people can go to my website and look at it. I can go to Squarespace today, not hire anybody, and make a plumbing business website. But Kevin can tell you this. It'll probably look like crap.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
Because guess what other skill you have to have? You need to be a designer.
A designer.
I don't care what they tell you on those platforms. If they tell you don't have to be a designer to do this, well, while you don't, if you take the solution out of the box, nobody wants the solution out of the box because you always end up manipulating it somehow. As soon as you start doing that, you have the choice to change the colors. Forget about it. It's like... Immediately
they go to red and purple. Like, I like red and purple. Let's put them together. Exactly. Let's put them on top of each other. Like, what are you doing? Do you know what contrast is? No, I don't.
It's so bad. Yeah, exactly. They'll put like yellow on white. And it's like, what are you doing? Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
It's always the white background. It's not the yellow.
Yeah. Or they'll make the whole site pink or something. And it's like,
exactly. I like pink.
Pink's cool, but it shouldn't be your primary color on the site. That should be like your highlight.
So here's what I think. I think what you need to understand is that the market is expanding. there will always have been for the last 25 years low code to no code tools.
Yeah.
Have they replaced SQL developers? No. Can you use Power BI to go look at a database and generate a report? Yes. Has it replaced report writers? No, because the guy in the business gets there and says, "Oh, I can make this one. Can I make this one? I don't know how to do that." And then you're stuck with trying to make Power BI do it. And that's when you go into these companies and you realize that we're using Power BI or we're using whatever. Let's take Excel as the premier low code tool on the face of planet Earth. And you walk into any bank and they have a complicated process spread across 14 spreadsheets and lookup tables in other spreadsheets that are on a folder that someone's changing without any kind of passwords to it. And like you're like, how does this work? Well, this is how we do mortgages.
You're like, so you're looking after my money. this is bad.
And every developer does what I do. They're looking at the spreadsheets like this, like, okay, let me think about this. And this has been built out over 15 years, and they said it needs to be an app now. Like, okay, scrap that. Tell me what you do, because like this is a squirrely, bag. So I don't think it ever will, because you'll start out with these low code tools, and then it always advances, and then you always need to bring someone in, and we're always building things. And so, as web developers, do we want to build the website for the plumber? And the answer is no.
Right.
We want to build the ordering system for the plumber, or we want to build like the invoicing system for the plumber, or we want to build some other things for the plumber. We don't want to build.
That's it. I think it's a different. It's to read this earlier, but it's about the right tool for the right job. And there is like Wix is the right tool for a certain job.
Yeah,
it really is.
But
it has to be in a skilled hand.
Yeah, even in the skilled hand, they would go, yeah, let's not use Wix because I hate the way it does this. Let me just build this for you. And there's still people today being paid $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 to custom build a website, and with all of these tools existing,
right?
Because they don't want it to be looking like one of the templates out of Squarespace or Wix or whatever. And I haven't used Honeycode or Bubble. I don't know what Honeycode is. That's a good name.
I've not used Honeycode, but I have used Bubble a little bit. It makes you, it allows you to build better apps. It's not like it's more than a CMS. You can do a whole bunch more. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I don't think they're going to put web developers out of a job. I don't. I think there's always going to be web developers.
Because here's the thing too, having played with Bubble a little bit, it still takes a skilled person, that of almost a developer, to be able to use the damn thing. You have to understand a whole bunch of stuff to be able to get it to do what you want it to do. Like it still requires some, maybe it has a slightly different definition of what a web developer is. But trust me, you hand it to your mom or your grandma and give them Bubble and a sign-in, you ain't getting a website out of that. It ain't happening.
We can think about like other things, and if you think this is going to happen, just think about things like home theaters. Like, it's like, can you go to the internet and look up how to install a home theater? Is every bit of information of how to do this out there? Absolutely yes. How many people know the difference between HDMI and HDMI ARC? And like, why should you use it and when you shouldn't? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know the difference between the 3 types of HDMI cables out there? And like, would you do high speed or low speed, or what's an 8K cable? What do I need? Like, how do I do it? Much less, how do I plug in a receiver? Like, even though all the information's out there, you're still hiring a guy to come in or a lady to come in and just hang your television, hook it all up, and like turn it on.
Or you're doing a whole bunch of research to figure it out, and then you're becoming the expert in it.
Right. Exactly. But very few people know how to do that, even though all of the information is out there to do it. So like that's coding is no different in any other industry. The skilled people will always be employed. It doesn't matter how good the tools get. The other thing is that as the tools get better, our complexity increases. Therefore, the tools will never keep up with the complexity, and it's always going to be a large part of this will always be hand.
Well, because as soon as that tool comes out, the immediate thought is, "Oh, that's cool. What new thing can I build with that?"
Like, well, it doesn't do that. Like, well, okay.
But I'm always thinking about my thought is like when that tool comes out, it's always like, "Oh man, I couldn't have built that yesterday. I can today. Therefore, I'm going to build that new thing." It doesn't build itself.
Right. Exactly.
Cool. We're living in cool times.
Anyway, I hope that helps people learn to code or skill up. Don't stay stagnant, because all you're doing is hurting yourself. Invest and use the best opportunity, the best investment you ever make. invest in your own skills. Hey, thanks, Definitely. Brian. Thanks a lot, man.
Nice, thank you. $20. Jeez, that's gonna get us a great lunch. That's that's a whole bunch of tacos.
Extra tacos. So that's good. Maybe
that's amazing. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody else who super chat today too. Bree and Andy as well. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're back in next week with something else interesting to talk about.
All right. From the tech capital of the world, I'm Bobby. We'll see you later.
We'll catch you guys later.